Will you all please rise to salute the flag, please? This is the opening of the Lowell School Committee meeting, October 22nd. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Scott? Here. Mr. Conway?
Here.
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 Mr. Leary?
Here.
Ms. Martin?
Here.
Ms. Rossi?
Here.
7 present.
7 present, and we have many others present in the audience. We'd like to welcome you to the Lowell School Committee meeting in Council Chambers. The first item of the evening, we have a spotlight in excellence, and many students and parents here. We are going to recognize this evening. Without any further ado, Madam Superintendent, first item on the agenda is a spotlight in excellence summer mathematics program.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Amongst us this evening, you have the future mathematicians, engineers, doctors, and those high math people of the city among you. So we don't know what potential is in this room this evening, but we would like to thank all of the parents for working with your children in mathematics. Also, I want to recognize the other children. You might not have won the award, but we know you did the math. The lucky children this evening are part of 3 members from each building that come here to be recognized in a lottery, but many other children complete a math calendar, problem of the day, and they submit evidence to us. And so we would like to thank all of you for your most important partnership families. Thank you for being here. There are 60 kids that are here that are representing the thousands of children who worked on mathematics and literacy throughout the summer. Thank you all so very much. So without any further ado, I'll tell you about the system. We have the students come in by schools. We're going to keep all the children because we don't release children unless we know you. So we'll keep you all here. We're going to take a group picture. So afterwards, we'll line up all the children and we'll let you all come forward as a group, and you can take as many pictures as you'd like. So without any more time, we will turn this over to Assistant Superintendent Claire Abrams of Curriculum and Instruction, and we will recognize the children individually. So thank you so much for being here.
The Bailey School. Ashton Hero. Kelly Penna. And Sophia Silva. Bartlett School. Tierra Elise Rodriguez. Nathalia Lima. And Ashley Dazinka. Butler School. Ayana Nango. Kari Sikangabon. Ochnenansumi. Daily School. Chandra Yim. Nawin Suwon. And Adam Betty. Greenout School. Yusari Rodriguez. Ruth Mary Roman. And Lauren Rodman. Lincoln School. Alexander Sopal. Zachary Dallaire. Oh, okay. No, there ain't. You can hear me? Okay, Lincoln School, Alexander Sopal, Zachary Dallaire, and Emma Frascarelli. McAuliffe School, Helena Limnu, Kazuma Marquez, and Nicholas Porter. McAvenue School, Nicole Ramirez, Esther Garcia, Nolan Barry. Moody School, Bastiana Machado Rodriguez, Kriti Palumi, and Nathaniel Neto. Maury School. Okay, from the McAuliffe School, Helena Lim New. Maury? Okay, thanks. Maury School, Erin Shelter, Ivan Kim, and Sariana So. Merkland, Regina Liu, Vashna Proang, and Kuna Pony. Tuckerville Memorial, Avery Doobie, Cassidy Bilowachuk, and Daphne Pratt. Pine Arts School, Caleb DeRoches, Mareed Hitchcock, and Sodaker Pitch. The Riley School, Abigail Yee Fantopoulos. I did that right. Alexander Wyman and Safa Shaikh. Robinson School, Shaughnessy School, Sophia Owens, Davion Rivera, and Deandra Rivera. Start closer. Robinson School, Carolina Chor, Mariama Jallo, and Anthony Canella. Start closer School, Yuvani Tim, Yasmin Hawkins, and Kavion Cordero. Sullivan School, Elber Palmer, Mario Silva, and Catherine Aristanzabo. Wang School, Alyssa Perrin, Fiona Camoni, and Arlene Teta Lati. And finally, the Washington School, Johannes Colon, Lacey Pear, and Nellie Chan. Congratulations all.
Isa pa di kayo. Sana, kami dito. Isa pa ganggit.
Oh, there they go. They got him up front. I was worried they wouldn't be seen. Can you be seen, honey?
Hold on, you gotta get back. You gotta be right up in the front. I don't know if I can get that, but I'll get right back. Hey, is that Robbie Keith?
Okay, children, on behalf of the city, parents, grandparents, friends, let's give the kids one more round of applause. Thank you very much. Members will take a 5-minute recess. We'd like to call the meeting back into order. Would the clerk please call a roll to go back into open session?
Mr. Conway? Mr. Conway?
Here.
Ms. Scott?
Here.
Mayor Elliott?
Here.
Mr. Gendron?
Here.
Mr. Leary? Here. Ms. Martin?
Here.
Mr. Rostikowicz?
Here.
7 present.
That's the most I've used the gavel in 10 months. So we'd like to proceed with the agenda. And the next item on the agenda, I'd like to entertain a motion to delay executive session till the end of the meeting and then adjourn from executive session, adjourn from open meeting from the meeting. Motion by Mr. Leary, seconded by Ms. Rostikowicz. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed, that motion carries. Next item on the agenda are the minutes. We have approval of the minutes of the regularly scheduled school committee meeting of Wednesday, October 1st, 2014. Motion to approve by Ms. Rostikowicz, second by Ms. Scott. All those in favor of approving the minutes as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the opposed, the minutes are adopted. Next item on the agenda, permission to enter. Permission to enter October 22nd, 2014. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. To County Cab Incorporated in the amount of $31,200 to provide round-trip transportation for one special education student from Stetson School in Bar, Maine, to the Devereaux School in Spencer, Mass. Funding provided by the school department budget, special education transportation. To the Maine Special Education Mental Health Collaborative in the amount of $51,765 to provide for the out-of-district tuition costs for one student enrolled and receiving services as outlined in the special education IEP, funding provided by the school department budget, special education tuition account. To Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust Incorporated in the amount of $170,000 to provide environmental and conservation education programs to students participating in 21st Century and Gateway After School and Summer Programs, funding provided by the 21st Century Community Learning Center Grant and Gateway City Grant. To the National Council for Behavioral Health in the amount of $35,000 to provide training to administrators and staff participating in youth mental health first aid training of the trainers program with skills to recognize developmental mental health problems for or someone in crisis. Funding provided by Project Aware Grant. To the University of Massachusetts at Lowell in the amount of $37,775 to provide curriculum-based programs to students in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 8th, and 11th grades to enrich their content understanding and skill development on the American Industrial Revolution. Funding is provided by the school department budget, field trip admission fees.
Move to approve by Ms. Martin, seconded by Ms. Rostikowicz. Could I just ask one question, Madam Superintendent, on that first item, county cab for $31,000? Does that individual? It seems like they're being commuted from Bar, Mass, to the Devereaux School in Spencer. I was just kind of curious,
Yeah.
Mr. Lang, why that is.
Certainly. We had a special education student who was from our district who, after the start of the school year, moved to Bar, Mass. Under the SPED regulations, he remains, the Lowell Public Schools remains fiscally responsible for the child for the current school year that he's in. So we need to, and he attends the Devereaux School. So whether he was in Lowell or not, he was attending the Devereaux School, and we have already budgeted for the tuition for him to be attending there. But what we have to do now for this school year is pick up the transportation costs to move him from his school home in Bar now to that special ed school. And then for the following school year, Bar Public Schools will have to pick up the fiscal cost for the student. We don't have any, we normally use SPNR transportation for our special education, but we don't have any vehicles in that area, and it's just a singular student that has to go from home to school, and it's cheaper to just contract with the local SPED transportation vendor out in that area of Massachusetts to provide the service. So it's a one-year cost that unfortunately we are responsible for. And then
So how long was the student enrolled in the school year until they decided to move?
I honestly don't know. But
Well,
whatever,
a better question, when did they move to Bar?
they moved after there is a deadline that they have to move by. I don't know the exact date, but the student moved after the date where Lowell remains fiscally responsible for him for the current year.
Okay. Ms. Rustigowitz?
So does the same scenario apply for the payment to the Maine Special Ed Mental Health Collaborative?
It doesn't. That's a slightly different situation.
Okay, what is that?
For that particular situation, parents of a student, and I can't get into specifics, parents of a student live in Lowell. DCF has taken the student from Lowell and placed them with a relative in Maine. Until the actual guardianship can be finalized through the courts, Lowell remains fiscally responsible for that student regardless of what state he's in. The school district in Maine where the child is now living is programmatically responsible, and they have made the decision that that particular school in Maine is the appropriate placement for that child. So we are on the hook basically for the tuition until the guardianship is approved. We put the contract in to cover the whole year if the student were going to be there. Our hope is that it really will be about a 6-month transition, and then we would be able to stop paying the tuition, and the state of Maine will have to pick it up. So it
Thank
is a
you.
little bit of a different situation with that child.
Well, it's very similar, though. You had a student who's moved to another
What do you
district.
do? The first student moved on their own voluntarily.
Right.
The second student was a DCF removal.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mayor Elliott?
Yes.
Mr. Gendron?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Ms. Rustikowicz?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Next item, we have memorials. There are 4 of them. The first one is for Steve Sapasaris, brother of retired Superintendent of Schools, George Sapasaris. Second one is Sean Horan, brother of Butler School teacher Eileen Horan. Third is Richard Minton, brother of payroll clerk Cindy Higgins. And the fourth is Donald Cody, brother-in-law of Executive Secretary for the Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment Office, Nancy Cody. Could we all please rise for a moment of silence and darken chambers? May they all rest in peace. Moving on to the next item of the agenda, we have motions. The first motion of the evening by Ms. Rustikowitz and myself, request the City Council amend bylaws to make Greater Lowell Technical High School succession process follow the Lowell City Council and Lowell School Committee succession process as it relates to the replacement of members who have left their elected office prior to the end of their full term. No second necessary. Ms. Rustikowitz.
Thank you, Mayor. The motion speaks for itself. I do think it's necessary for our city to re-examine this piece of our charter, re-examine the language, perhaps change it and align it with the other elected offices in the city. As I said in our previous session with regard to this topic, we should not be kingmakers. The residents, the voters of the city are the kingmakers and should be choosing their elected officials. Thank you.
Thank you. I had filed a similar motion. Madam Solicitor, anything to add at this point?
Sure. This will be reviewed in conjunction with motions that were made at the City Council meeting as well.
Further discussion? Mr. Conway, then Mr. Gendron.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is it through you, Mr. Mayor, to the city solicitor? This charter, is this go all the way back, from what I understand, it goes back to like 35 or 40 years for the Voc charter? Is that correct?
These provisions were part of the special act, which then also referenced the agreements made with the other communities.
So it's my understanding then that we have the charter from the Voc school it has to be okayed by the city council. Is that correct?
That we're going to be reviewing the entire process as to what we would, if we were to make a change, what that process would entail.
But now, what about the other towns? How do they fit into this? Because they would they have to accept their charter through like a town meeting and change it through the town meeting?
Right. Well, structurally, there is the special legislation creating the regional school, and the special legislation, again, does reference an agreement made amongst the towns. There are changes that certainly do impact the towns and require input and votes from the towns. But in this case, again, this motion, as well as a prior motion that was made by the city council, will all be reviewed collectively, and what it will entail in terms of potential changes will be spelled out in a final opinion.
So in other words, all the towns would have to agree with it, and the city of Lowell together? Is that correct? Is that a fair assumption?
Again, until the review is complete, I would hate to, excuse me. Sorry about that. It was an alarm.
That's a catchy sound.
But I'm not alarmed. That's likely the case, but again, until it's reviewed in this context, I would hesitate to give a definitive opinion on it.
Just one other question. In the 40 years, that we've had that under that agreement, how many times did this come up? And I know it just came up obviously twice in the last couple of years. Prior to that, do you have any idea in that 40-year period how many times that this has happened?
I don't have an exact figure as to how many times it would have. My own recollection would be that it is not a frequent occurrence. It has been clearly as of late, which I'm assuming in part is what is motivated this. But no, it has not been a frequent occurrence, although it has happened prior to these more recent decisions to fill the position.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gendron.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I took a vote on the Greater Lowell, a member of the Greater Lowell Vote as a member of the Lowell City Council back in 1994 or 1995. And at that time, I was adamant that one of the candidates was the individual who finished second in the election. And I was adamant that I was voting for that individual for that very reason, because they finished second in the election, they were on the ballot. I've always felt as though it was silly to have the bodies get together to choose a candidate. I realize logistically it may be a little difficult because it's not as cut and dry as a council or a school committee election where there's one election, everybody runs in that one election. I believe that the seats are split, so maybe logistically a little hard to do, and of course multiple communities contribute to that board. But I think it's worth going through those logistics and trying to come up with a plan that makes more sense than having 15 of us sit here and grill a candidate when it's an elected position, and we have a succession that we use in the school committee. We have a succession that we use in the city council. We should have a similar one in the Greater Lowell School Board. So I applaud Ms. Rostitchewicz for the motion, and I certainly will support it.
Thank you, Mr. Gendron. If there's no objection, I just will be brief from the podium, unless you want to come up, Ms. Martin. I agree. I believe that, if an individual, there is an election, and often there is, people put their names in the ballot, and if they don't win and there is a vacancy, I fully concur with my colleagues that, they took the initiative, they worked to ask people for their votes, and they should be the next individual in line to succeed if there is an opening. So I'm going to look forward to the report and see what the process is after that. Further discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Next motion of the evening by Ms. Rostitchewicz. Request the superintendent work with the staff to create a parent university for parents and caregivers of Lowell Public School children. Second by Ms. Martin. Ms. Rostitchewicz?
Thank you, Mayor. So I was actually perusing Boston Public Schools newsletter, actually it's a newspaper, and one of the items that caught my eye was a piece entitled Parent University. So I thought, well, that would be great for our district. And we already have a full complement, an ever-growing complement of workshops and opportunities for parents to engage within the schools, engage with the school system, and also learn more about how to help their children at home, how to better engage with the educators, and so on. But we don't have a title to it. So I thought naturally that Parent University would be a splendid title for these offerings that we already offer. And I think when it comes to, submittal for grants, it's to have that, rather than listing out all of the individual workshops that we offer, we've got this fantastic Parent University, this is what it does, and these are some of the core offerings that we offer to parents and caregivers throughout the year. So it's more of a branding piece than anything. It's not in no way to diminish what you're already doing. It's really to pull it all together in a more cohesive manner and to actually give it a name. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rastegowitz. Further discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next motion of the evening by Mr. Conway to ask the superintendent to meet with the health department officials and other health caregivers in the city to review the procedures that are currently in place to reduce the risk of the spread of infectious diseases in our school. In addition, to ask the superintendent to invite the director of the health department to attend an upcoming school committee meeting. The health director and committee members would then be able to have an open discussion about how to maximize the safety of our schools in terms by reducing the spread of contagious illnesses. Second by Mr. Gendron. Mr. Conway?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's pretty straightforward. It's as we have seen over in the last few months, there's been, should we say, a lot of confusion worldwide, certainly in our nation, and that certainly has filtered down to our states and the city. So I want to say that there's been parents that I've talked with that they're wondering exactly what is being done. And the reason why I put this motion on, I had a friend of mine ask me exactly what are we doing in our schools in our city, and I didn't have the answer. So I felt kind of funny not having that answer, and I said what we need to do is we need to put a motion on to find out exactly, to be specific on what's happening. And I realize that the health department does send notices home with students, but as we've talked about on the floor numerous times, those notices get lost in the lunchbox and in the backpacks and so forth. And I think this gives an opportunity for the health department to come in front of the city, so they can explain to the city exactly what is going on, what they're doing, what their suggestions are for the school and for the city. And I think that again, the knowledge, you have the knowledge base, I think that automatically tends to give that a comfort level to the people. And I think we obviously want to have as much safety as we can for staff, for the city, and for the children. So I'm looking forward to this presentation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Conway. Further discussion? Ms. Durkin, did you want to add anything from our meeting last week? I thought it was very productive. I thought the school department was represented very well and have taken some very good precautionary measures as well as outreach efforts following that meeting. So,
sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of the things that we had done prior to that meeting is met with the health department and nurse coordinator Lisa Gilbicki to determine what we needed to do as far as protocols in the school district. So to date, the Family Resource Center and the center at Lowell High School for enrolling students has been trained by the health department in the protocol that's aligned with the CDC's protocol for asking specific questions of new and incoming students. Also, all of the nurses have been trained in that protocol as well, so that they know what to do if a student comes to them who is ill, the specific questions to ask and aligned. We also had the health department present to all of our administrators yesterday around enterovirus and Ebola. And we are sending out letters home tomorrow to all staff and families, articulating all of the steps that we've taken to date in the district. We've put on the website as of today, there is a whole lot more information relative to enterovirus and links to the CDC for parents, as well as the Ebola virus. So we've also worked with the custodial staff and Mr. Lang to make sure that there have been some added steps in the schools to address sanitizing high traffic areas and high touch areas in the classrooms.
So I just thought in light of your motion, Mr. Conway, that we get an update. The city was very proactive in a timely manner, and this was last week, that this is a very fast-moving issue. I think it makes a lot of sense to have the health department in, but I thought it was important to let the people at home know what's taking place in the meantime. Ms. Rostigowitz?
I just had a quick question of Ms. Durkin. So the new screening protocols, is that in place so every child, a new child that comes into the district, is everyone having their temperature taken, or is it just a select few based on where they came from?
So the protocol is just a series of questions that are recommended by the CDC. So it's questions that all children or families are being asked relative to travel or having lived in a particular area. If there is any answer yes to any of those questions, what would happen is we would make contact with the Lowell Health Department and a specific nurse. So it would not be automatic that that you'd have to have an indicator of several of these answers yes to be referred to the nurse. So the other piece that I wanted to let you know too is that next week the health department will be working with our television studio at Lowell High School, and they're going to be putting together a public service announcement that we'll put the link on for all families to see as well.
Ms. Rostigowitz?
Okay, so, and thank you for that explanation, but I guess my larger point is that, there are many more contagious diseases that children bring to our schools every day and bring into our schools as new students. So whether you're screening for Ebola or enterovirus or whatever other illness is out there, I guess I would just hate to see us go down a road where we're sort of profiling individuals and not necessarily establishing similar protocol for everyone new entering the system.
The protocol's for everyone.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Moving on to subcommittee reports. First subcommittee report of the evening, Student Support Services Subcommittee. Pardon me? No, we did all the motions, right? One. All right, sorry, I only got 3. All right, can somebody get the next motion? Here we go. All right, number 14, next motion of the evening by Ms. Rostigowitz. Request superintendent provide to the committee an update on the continued effort to reorganize the district's special education classrooms to include timeliness for rollout, parent engagement, and approximate costs associated with the reorganization. Second by Ms. Martin. Ms. Rostigowitz.
Thank you once again. This is very self-explanatory. I would hate this committee in the district to be put in the same position that we were last spring, where there's a very large change was set to happen. We're removing somewhere in the nature of 30 classrooms within a very short period of time. And while we wound up ultimately only moving 8 classrooms, that's still a great change for our students and for our families, and I cannot stress enough that we need to be involving our families much earlier in planning out much earlier than we did last year. And also, as we head into, looking at what our budgetary needs are for next year, I mean, there's going to be a cost associated with this process, and so we really need to get a handle on that earlier rather than at the very last minute, which is what we were faced with last year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vasigowitz. Further discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the opposed, that motion carries as well. Now we'll move on to the subcommittees. First subcommittee report, Student Support Services Subcommittee, report and approval of the minutes of the meeting of Tuesday, September 16th. Ms. Vasigowitz, Madam Chairperson.
Police Department, pardon me. The agenda items included, number 1, options-based response update. Number 2 is a district attendance intervention plan. It's on. The 3rd item was the Family Resource Center update. It didn't come back, so I'm thinking it went through. Okay, so the options-based response update was in response to a request by Mr. Conway on the implementation of the options-based response in Lowell Public Schools. Highlights of the presentation included the establishment of a district critical incident team, response team, a revised crisis templates for all of our schools, training for team members, development of an options-based response training video, introductory letters to be shared with families, and website updates about new safety procedures, including an invitation to review the new procedures during 3 sessions that would be offered this fall, and all of those have already started. And next steps for this process is finalizing of the reunification protocols for the district and provide training and materials for implementation to all school administrators and parents. I know that process is ongoing as well. And also finalizing a plan to conduct school-based options-based response simulation drills for all students, which has already been rolled out. The next item is the district attendance intervention plan report, and Assistant Superintendent Janine Durkin and Supervisor of Attendance Heather Ganley presented a progress report on the district's newly developed attendance intervention plan to address a motion made by school committee member Kim Scott during the September 4th, 2013 school committee meeting. Highlights of this particular presentation included the establishment of a district attendance intervention team to develop a district-wide model for addressing attendance, also the development of a district-wide attendance intervention plan with action steps to address the attendance concerns consistently across the district for implementation this school year. Reviewed established protocols, procedures, and forms utilized by the attendance officer, and made all of those processes more uniform across the district. Reestablished a formal district attendance team in cooperation with DCF, Lowell Juvenile Court, community representatives, and school-based administrative teams. The final item on the agenda was the Family Resource Center report. Assistant Superintendent Durkin presented a report to address the request from school committee member Connie Martin for additional information regarding the process for pre-K and kindergarten registration, including an assessment of current processes at the Family Resource Center to rectify an error that transpired during the 2014-15 registration process. Highlights of that presentation included the following action steps. They've established a committee comprised of district and community-based representatives. There was a review of current processes and procedures of Lowell Public Schools Family Resource Center. The research, family Oh, I'm sorry, the group will be researching Family Resource Center models and registration processes statewide, and will be consulting with DESE in order to gain a more comprehensive understanding of best practices and procedures utilized in surrounding districts. They'll also be drafting a plan, including recommendations for further development of the Family Resource Center's practices and processes. That includes a timeline with plans for implementation, and then we'll be formalizing a process to ensure ongoing review of implementation of action steps articulated in their plan. I would submit that as a report of progress.
Thank you, Ms. Sikowitz. Mr. General?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just wondering, with regard to the Family Resource Center, is there any news about the new location and when we might see that come online?
Thank you. We have been still working with the landlord. I really don't have an update for you. The lease that we signed specified that we'd have occupancy by February 1st. We were hoping to be in by the holidays, but it all hinged on relocation of one of the tenants on the 5th floor to another office space. And they haven't, to my knowledge, been able to, well, I know they haven't moved yet, they're still there, but I don't know what situation they're in as far as finding a suitable home. So we do need the 5th floor. At the same time, we occupy the 1st floor because the Special Ed Department and Family Resource Center work so closely together, we can't move one without the other. So at this point, as the schedule kind of drags out a little bit for the relocation of the other tenant, and then we still have to do the build-out of the 5th floor and the bookstore, it's looking more likely like we'll just hit that February 1st occupancy date. We'd obviously still love to come in sooner if it can happen, but it all hinges on moving that other tenant. So we were originally going to start discussions with the landlord late September, early October around design of the Family Resource Center, and we've decided to push that back until probably closer to Thanksgiving, just given the timeline, because we really do need to relocate the other folks first.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Entertain a motion to accept the minutes as a report of progress and place on file by Ms. Martin, second by Mr. Leary. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda are the approval of minutes of the meeting of Tuesday, September 30th by the chairperson of Facility Subcommittee, Chairperson Mr. Leary. You've already
Just approve
reported
the
up.
minutes, Mayor. Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, move to approve by Ms. Scott, second by Mr. Conway. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye, and the
Aye.
opposed. Motion carries. Next section of the agenda, we have reports of the superintendent. Madam Superintendent, first item, parent training series.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Assistant Superintendent Durkin presented us with a report of an ongoing series that's offered to parents and caregivers entitled Positive Solutions for Families. This is an early childhood initiative that has been supplied to us through our special ed early childhood social worker, Darcy Coleman, who has been doing this work. And it is a series of sessions that really work with parents of young children. It appears that it's been very successful. It works with other collaboratives, other people who work with early childhood, such as Ann Sullivan Early Intervention, CTI Head Start, as well as Lowell General Hospital. So we've partnered together to provide these series to parents. And Ms. Durkin reports that over the past 2 years, 100 family members have completed this parenting series. So this goes with Ms. Rusikowicz's earlier initiative of talking about us promoting this. And so this will continue. You have here the dates that the parenting programs will occur throughout the year. There are 6 dates, 6 times, and it's in different places across the city. So if you have any more detailed question, I invite you to ask Ms. Durkin for more information.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Further discussion on this report? Motion to accept the report as a report of progress by Mr. Gendron, second by Mr. Leary. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And the opposed? The motion carries. Next report from the superintendent is on the enterovirus EV68 report. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an answer to a response of a motion by Ms. Ratzikowitz, is also that states request that the superintendent work with the City of Lowell Health Department to distribute materials to Lowell Public Schools families for the purpose of education and awareness around the intervirus EV68. Here is the work, you heard a little bit about it earlier, but this is what has gone home, this is what's posted, coming from the health department, from the Boston Health Department and state initiatives. This is what we have passed out at this particular point, and if anybody has any questions, please welcome.
Thank you. Ms. Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My only comment on this is I see how important it is that we're sending out the information about hand washing, the importance of hand washing. I just want to make sure that we're giving the children time in school to adequately wash their hands. I know I made the motion about the lunch breaks and how short the lunch and the recess are. It's my understanding that kids don't want to take the time to wash their hands in between anything because they won't have time to eat or they won't have time to play. So if we could just relay the importance of, giving them time, especially with the flu season coming up and not just the enterovirus. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. Further discussion? Move to approve by Ms. Martin, seconded by Ms. Ratzikowitz. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and the opposed, motion carries. Next section of the agenda, we have convention conference requests. Entertain a motion to take all three conference requests together by Mr. Conway, seconded by Mr. Gendron. All those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the opposed, motion carries. Motion to approve all three conferences by Ms. Scott, seconded by Ms. Ratzikowitz. Roll call.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mayor Elliott?
Yes.
Mr. Gendron?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Ms. Ratzikowicz?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
That concludes regular business before the committee, and I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of discussing the release of the executive session minutes of the superintendent's contract, as well as consideration of the latest proposal from the United Teachers of Lowell contract. And after business is concluded, we will adjourn from executive session. Moved by Ms. Ratzikowitz, seconded by Ms. Martin. Roll call.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Mayor Elliott?
Yes.
Mr. Gendron?
Yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Ms. Ratzikowicz?
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
7 yeas, motion carries.